Yeah, I did.
So we're live with Kaylee in the studio.
We're kind of behind the scenes.
Say hi,
This is for
Sam.
our 4 p.m. show.
Say hi, Marcus.
Yes, we've got Gilma and Lisa back there. They're gearing up.
We got a few people joining. So you and I have been talking about the story
Yes.
that you're doing tonight, this microchip deal.
Yes.
So what is the deal with it?
Okay, it kind of sounds like Mark of the Beast, right? I mean, because that's sort of what comes to your mind at first. And
Right.
then after diving into this story for the past month or so, I'm learning so much about the people who are doing this. There are basically two different subsets of people here in Dallas-Fort Worth who are really delving into this. You've got the bioengineers, and they're the ones doing the research, all the medical stuff.
These are all the people who got great grades in those
Exactly.
classes we didn't get.
Right. The people who we wish we knew that.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
There's another group called the grinders, and they are people who, gauges in their ears. They tend to live on the edge,
Right.
and they call themselves this. But there's a
By the way, Will Clark hasn't even heard all your explanation. He says no thanks already.
Okay, all right.
No thanks.
Well, what's really fascinating about this is people are doing this. They're getting a little, basically skin deep implant. It's about the size of a grain of rice.
Right.
Some of them are doing this so that they don't have to carry a security access badge at work. They just simply wave their hand.
I mean, it's almost like Mission. I'm thinking like a Tom Cruise movie, whatever.
Yeah, Mission
Minority Report or whatever.
Right,
Just
something like
scanning
that.
yourself.
Right, I know. But it's sort of like the future is here.
So do you have to go to a doc for this?
No. And that's the biggest shocker in this story. You do not. You are going to be so surprised by where this is happening in Addison.
Jack Cohen, by the way, says we got enough Big Brother. Don't we have enough Big Brother going on?
Well, the argument is you have to. It's very low frequency. You have to watch the story.
Cassie says Jesus is coming.
I hear he is.
Oh man! All right. So story tonight, 10 o'clock, right?
10 o'clock,
as
yes.
usual.
Would you chip yourself is what I want to know from those of you out there.
Right.
Would you do this if it meant you didn't have to carry car keys anymore or your security access badge for work? Would you do it?
And I'm going to tell you if I'm going to do this or
Yes.
not. Because if I do it, I get a discount because you did the story. Is that right?
Oh, that's it. You get a discount. That's
All
what we're
right.
looking for.
10 o'clock tonight. We'll see you, Callie O'Cally.
Thanks, Doogie Dunbar.
Go Doogie O'Doggy.
Salutations, you guys, and thank you for tuning in to another part of the Building the Matrix series. This is part 4. I haven't really quite condensed what exactly I'll be going over in this edition of it. However, augmented reality and virtual reality, as well as feeding the beast machine, seem to be the theme. I have a few things that I actually kind of want to go over that kind of illustrate what's actually going on, and I hope with the breakdown of this actual Building the Matrix series, or this Building the Matrix segment, I can help you guys understand more of what I'm actually trying to explain with the entire part of it, the entire series that is Building the Matrix. Before you, I have two articles. One that says Google will draw your selfie using an algorithm, as well as MasterCard expanding its selfie pay capabilities. Now, both of these things are results of facial recognition software, facial recognition technology. So whenever we're doing things like Snapchat, whenever we're doing things like putting up our face pictures on Facebook, et cetera, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want to call these ones, whenever we're doing this, what we're essentially doing is feeding the machine. We're giving it everything it needs to read different facial structures, to read different emotional patterns, to read our retinal capabilities whenever we're reading things, seeing how fast we're able to read things, seeing whenever we're reading things intently. You see, there's all different kinds of things that can be learned from simply looking at the face. Now, we as humans, we take it for granted because we're so engaged by everything, we take it for granted. However, people that have extremely high-def cameras, they're able to look at pictures and see the pores on people, see how they're actually feeling, see whether or not they're healthy or sick with these actual technologies, you see. So this goes beyond the simple fact of having your face drawn through an algorithm. But if that's the case, then that says that your face is part of a biological profile, a problem that has been solved. So if you're paying attention to the actual series Building the Matrix so far, then you understand what the technocracy is, how it's cleverly disguised as a nanny state, a perfect state of bliss, or at least a artificial and technological paradise induced by these people, these technocrats that seek to govern us. I showed you a brief picture of Francis, and this is a person on the internet. You know, he's famous for freaking out. He's absurdly huge, and another robot, or a robot serving him. The point I had behind this meme, is showing you how we're systematically being dumbed down. How all these great advances, while they are still great advances, how have we used them, these pieces of technology? What have we learned from these pieces, this advancement? Have we, I don't know, have we found nirvana? Have we found bliss? Have we found enlightenment? Or have these pieces of technology systemically dumbed us down? And this is where it gets even stranger, and I'll get into this momentarily. We already know that these technologies are not, that they're not necessarily beneficial to our health. We understand that the LED lights that they give off, that they burn our retinas, that they send mixed signals to our brain, that they don't give us the actual, well, that they don't give us vitamin D or vitamin C from the sun, you see. We're not getting proper nutrients because this little pocket radiation stick, or this pocket radiation pad that you're carrying around with you, you see, it's meant to destroy you. And I want to kind of place something in your guys' head because this popped up to me as a somewhat revelation. We're always constantly hearing the mark of the beast, signing a deal with the devil, et cetera, et cetera. Google is the devil, technology is the apple that Eve bit into, et cetera, et cetera. Knowing now that this technology, this radiation, this false light, and all the other things that it's doing to us, would this not be the metaphorical or the symbolical interpretation of signing the deal with the devil, knowing that, you know, we're being attacked, that we're being purposely killed or slowly killed because of these technologies, you see. And I feel like this is very strange because people don't understand how in depth all these advances in building the matrix, what these matrix technologies really do. People don't understand how in depth or how vast the plans and the future plans of them are, you see. Before you, I have two articles. One that talks about machine learning, while the other one talks about how Google is trying to live stream you like Facebook Live or Periscope. And so what I thought of whenever I saw this immediately was a scene in a show called Black Mirror, which you can watch on Netflix, which is extremely dystopian, extremely disturbing if you ask me. I don't know, I see things in a very dark way, especially whenever they're meant to be twisted, but the idea that we're being monitored all the time. I mean, how many times do we hear, go Google it, or using Google as a verb? You see, what happens whenever we actually have Google being the live help chat, or the live chat all the time, or us being able to broadcast ourselves through Google and being a part of Google at all times. So before I was talking about how facial recognition and all kinds of other things like Selfie Pay and the Google being able to use your face algorithm to draw a selfie, well, this thing right here, machine learning, is a perfect example of it. This is the super surveillance. This is metadata. This is exactly what they're talking about whenever they're saying they're collecting this type of information. And it's subtly being implemented into society. Like I said, with things such as Snapchat. So what do you think the purpose of all this is? As I said before, what would be the purpose of trying to have 24-hour broadcasting of an individual? Because then you have no privacy. Then you can create an entire society that is not only monitored, but stimulated by an outside force, or controlled, or engineered whichever way you would like to look at it. But because it is involved in a system which has updates, which changes, and which has things on demand, which is hashtag trending, you see, it is consistent. This is the beast system. So whenever we're building the matrix, whenever we're giving it all of the sustenance it needs to grow and to be, this is it. You see. Before you have 3 articles, sort of illustrating matrix technologies, or at least the idea that they're able to console us, that this is Big Brother, that this is 1984, that this is the technocracy, the idea that they're able to know what our sleep schedule is, whenever they need to provide us with certain kind of therapy, and someone to even talk to about these types of things, these irregularities, or our health problems. You see, one article is actually from Reuters. Now you're talking to it. Now you're talking. Human-like robots may one day care for dementia patients. And another one that says therapists have created a virtual heroin cave in an attempt to help addicts. And this is from Business Insider. And the one in the middle, IBM Watson supercomputer can now track your sleep. So let that just marinate in your mind momentarily. How does that work? Whenever you have a robot-like therapist that cares for you. And then if you need therapy or you need to talk about your withdrawal syndrome symptoms or anything of the like, well, what do? You go inside of a virtual heroin cave, of course. You deal with your problems there, right? But if there's any problems, don't worry. IBM Watson supercomputer will regulate your schedule to get you back on track. And this is the future that they're trying to design for us, one that's streamlined and efficient. So whenever I'm saying these are matrix technologies, how does this work? Will we be prescribed drugs by machines? Are they meant to prolong or resolve our lives? And what kind of care would we receive? There's all kinds of different things that you have to think of when we're looking at just this issue alone. But they're talking about it. This is medical health care. I also go over the concept that there is autonomous healthcare, or that they're at least trying to set up the infrastructure for autonomous healthcare in my Crisis Corner Autonomous Society video. I advise you guys to check that out. But what I'm also trying to do here is to show you that there are other forms of this quote-unquote transhuman or technocratic healthcare that's delivered right here before you. An automated sedation device could replace doctors. A deal has been reached to commercialize a microchip drug delivery implant. You know, something that could simulate the fact that you're on oxycodone or hydrocodone or marijuana, or that you're even drunk or intoxicated, you see. Transhumanists foresee artificial intelligence as a supplement to the human immune system. So what they're also saying is whenever we have nanobots or even programmable matter inside of us, that can be used as our immune system. We won't need the one that we were given at birth. And right here in the corner, an artificial womb, the coming of a motherless earth or a motherless birth, you see? So more and more we're starting to hear about the advances of, well, a society that's governed by machines, or in their words, that's sustainable. Before you, I have a few more examples of what I would consider an autonomous society. The fact that we're having driverless cars, chatbots, and even robotic pizzas, or robotic pizza delivery. Sorry, robotic pizza sounds disgusting. Could you imagine that? Having oil instead of marinara, that would be disgusting. I love cheese. But the fact that we're actually having these types of things being discussed in the present day show you, or at least allude to the fact that we're moving more and more towards an autonomous society. They want to make a world where there's less, well, as I've said before in other discussions and other parts of my work, that has less carbon emissions, less pollution, less of the human condition. So whenever we're talking about this, we have to look at it in the concept or in the mindset that these people who are pushing this agenda of taking us over scientifically through technology, when they're pushing this agenda, they're trying to make humans obsolete. They're trying to remove us from the equation. But at the same time, they're learning how to prolong the human condition. Whenever I first got into this, I understood very, very little as far as transhumanism. I just thought, hey, they're trying to put man into machine. And yes, that's it to a degree, but they're also trying to make human plus. They're trying to make us better than where we are right now. Imagine your body being at its pinnacle and then superseding that while still being able to maintain your body. Now, a machine won't be able to do that, but your body will. And through some kind of alchemical, technological process, they will figure it out. But before you, as I've said before, because we're looking at the infrastructure of the society being built, I have 3 articles that kind of display this. The idea that we constantly hear that the world is overpopulated, and this is another one of the proponents that they need to carry out the justifications that they want to do. Whenever they talk about killing us, whenever they talk about Bill Gates' COPSEC formula, bringing the carbon emissions of people down, they're trying to say that it's the byproduct of overpopulation. And, well, of course, poor life choices as well. But because they see us as a problem, and you can see this on the Georgia Guidestones as well, they need to deal with the overpopulation. Because if they're going to be extending human life, if they're going to be giving all this great technology out, they don't want to have a society of empowered slaves, so to speak. They don't want to have a society of people that can rebel in a way. So, like I said, I would consider these Frankenstein technologies because of what they actually do. They extend the human condition, right? So we've already heard the idea that people are being implanted with chips, implantable contraceptive even. The fact that you can have something put in you and then you can become sterile for more than, I don't know, I think it's like 4 years or so. But this is along the lines of a transhuman technology because it alters your state of being. Okay? So whenever they have robotic exoskeletons to help paraplegics, whenever they're putting on different limbs, prosthetic limbs, onto amputees, this too is it. Whenever they're putting artificial hearts inside of people, automatic defibrillators, bionic pancreases, all kinds of different technologies. These are transhuman technologies, or in my words, it sounds goofy, but Frankenstein technologies, because they extend the human condition. And I know this all sounds fantastic. I know, hey, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for society? What's really going to happen whenever we have an entire society of patchwork people put together? Because then, not only does society change, but the psyche of man changes, the psychology and the goals which drive man changes, you see. And that's whenever we actually have to start understanding what exactly it is that's going on in the transhumanist community. What exactly is it that they're trying to extend? Because, as I like to say, an eternity of paying debts and taxes does not sound beneficial to me. So one of the things that I was going to speak on, the idea that we're having these Frankenstein-style technologies or extending the human condition, well, with that too, it means that they have to manipulate consciousness and enhance it. I was going to do a separate video on this topic alone, and I still will. It's on humanize. The fact that researchers are essentially talking about consciousness transference. Being able to transfer your mind into an artificial body. And I have another article right here before you from Gizmodo, where they talk about how the U.S. military wants a chip to translate your brain activity into binary code, ones and zeros. a language. So what I would consider this is them trying to figure out a way to upload you to the Borg collective, the hive mind, the cloud storage, you see. Because if they're able just to translate all of your brain activity into binary code, well, then they already know how you're going to think. They can just copy and paste your brain into the cloud, right? And then, anytime your body goes ragged, you need a new one. Well, then they'll just download your consciousness into a new body. And I know this sounds all fantastical, but people really need to understand that this is actually being discussed and employed to some degree. This is not science fiction. It's becoming more and more of a reality that while we are and are not merging with technology, we're seeing the evolution of what could be humanity. But at the same time, we could also say we're seeing the devolution of humanity, because they're regressing us, and with these kinds of techniques, they're ultimately killing us, making us obsolete, assimilating us to their collective, right? Another thing that we see that was foretold in science fiction that's becoming more and more reality is pre-crime software. Minority Report is what most people are able to associate this with, but now you can actually go back and go to a place called beware.com, beware, which is essentially a futuristic or a pre-crime technology. They look at trends, they look at backgrounds, they look at a number of factors that take into consideration that someone might or might not commit a crime. And what I would consider this, if you ask me, I think this is them inventing God. As I said before, they're already trying to upload us to some cloud consciousness, right? Well, wouldn't that be Google's consciousness because Google owns the cloud? Or if it wasn't cloud, would it be Microsoft? And if it wasn't Microsoft, would it be Dropbox? You see, so who is behind this idea of pre-crime technology? The Chinese are already using it. And give it time before Americans actually start using it too. But see, then we really have to start bringing into picture what exactly deems it as crime. What is crime? Who is allowed to grow? And essentially, what is the philosophy behind impeding someone's actual growth? This is them playing God. This is them ultimately destroying the exterior world to where it's, some kind of dystopic future, and offering to have us inside of this collective, this cloud consciousness, the collective consciousness, a new age ideology which is being implemented through technology. You see techno sorcery, and that's another video, if you would have it, that I'm working on. Because as I said at the start of this video, we have to sign agreements saying we know what we're getting ourselves into when we do these types of things. We need to understand that there are user agreements as well as business agreements and blah, 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 blah. We all scroll past it the same. But spiritually, multidimensionally, however you would like to look at it, metaphysically, we are signing an agreement to be willing participants of this experiment that they're conducting. So whenever we're doing this, we have already given over our rights to some degree. This is the devil or the adversaries effectively weaponizing technology and stopping us from being able to make any of the right moves or any of the moves that we would think are appropriate. So whenever these people, these technocrats, come through with this kind of technology, stopping us, or at least under the guise of mathematics, science, and technology, that they have the best interest at heart, that they really do know you'll eventually commit a crime someday, statistically proving. So let us stop you now, and we'll imprison you It's for your own good. Don't worry. Well, at that point, is there a trial? Are you allowed to speak for yourself? Apparently, you're a criminal and you didn't even know it. But this is a reality that we're living in, something that is governed by these technocrats. So whenever they're telling us that we can and can't do something, realize that this is obey Big Brother, that this is 1984, where they're trying to conduct some kind of worldwide experiment on all of us. And I'm sure you're wondering, well, I don't see it. I'm confused what you're talking about. I'm not seeing any evidence of this. This makes no sense to me. Then that means that it's working. Their programming, to some degree, is working, and you can't see how clever they're pulling all of this off. Because to create this massive engine, this beast system, they need money. They need a reason. They need experiments. They need results. And they need willing participants. They need a number of things. One of the key things that they need are the people to engage this system and the finances to do so. So what do? They shut the country down. They shut down anything that requires people to be self-sustaining, independent, sovereign, however you want to put it, to where they're forced to be a part of this system, to where they become willing slaves that act as tools to this technocratic takeover. Before you, I have a litany of articles showing this, how the TPP is used to kill a massive Indian solar project, how Chicago residents blame city for water contamination in a class action lawsuit, how because of the TPP again, Ohio lost 112,500 jobs. Washington's considering the nation's first carbon tax. And Oregon, I don't know if you guys saw, but they're cutting out coal. And if you've heard me talk about this before, you know what I'm talking about is Agenda 2030, sustainable development. The purpose of this is to shut down major cities, major human hubs, or as Jade Helm 15 put it, mastering the human domain. You see, because they need HTA, they need human terrain analysis, analytics. They need information on us. And to do this, as I've said before, to conduct this experiment, they need to start interjecting stimuli. And this is exactly that stimuli. The country is shutting down. But we hear more and more about how people are discontent with things on the internet. But we don't see anything being done in the real world. We see online movements occurring and chaos in the streets because we're not speaking the same language. So whenever I'm saying that the matrix is being built around us, all we have to do really is look at how the world is crumbling around us as well, and how they're putting up some kind of holographic artificial simulation of what life really could be. I speak more on this idea that they're creating an artificial society in my Autonomous Society video as well, with the idea that they're creating an artificial sun, or that China has created an artificial sun of what they would consider limitless energy. This is something that has no bounds. Renewable energy for a sustainable developmental world, right? An artificial society constructed by these technocrats. These are people who will govern what it's like to live, so to speak. And when they do this, they'll create this artificial society, and they'll induce all kinds of different things. They'll put different kinds of stimuli and different kinds of changes to the matrix. Or is that really all I'm really talking about? And yes, that's what I really am discussing. Because we can see it all around us, more and more, the fact that they're building this matrix. In closing, I wanted to talk about one aspect that I'm sure we're already well aware of in regards to this technocratic takeover, and that's the fact that we have robots replacing work or doing the work for us. I mean, we already have burger bots, we have bartending robots, we have drones for any kind of warehouse work, we even have kitchen droids for doing food. We've also got automated, Automated, having a brain fart, guys. Automated sedation devices, there you go, that deliver anesthesia. So we have a number of things already out there in this technocratic world that are replacing humans to work. But one of the things I really want people to understand is, what is that doing to our psychology? What is that doing to our mindset and to our general understanding as to what work could be defined as? Because now we don't think of, what we need to start thinking of is what really advances us. Anybody can go flip a burger. Anyone can pour someone a drink. Anyone can push a needle. All you have to know is the proper contain, or the how much it contains and the dosage that you need. Now we're getting down to the very, very fundamentals of what it means to be humans, because if this is the case, if we're just to work and pay bills, well then these robots, which have been constructed, they have no complaints, no lunch break, no health care. You buy them, you plug them in, that's it. So when we're looking at all of this, what we really need to start understanding more of is, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have compassion, to have creativity, to have love, to appreciate? In producing this video, a number of articles came out that I didn't really put in. But one of them that illustrated this was Ray Kurzweil again came out saying how once machines are able to love, they will overtake us, alluding to the fact that machines have already learned enough because of machine learning. So once they're able to learn, once they learn compassion, once they learn what this is about, and they're able to replicate it effectively, then there will be no need for humans. There will be no need for us to copulate. So if we continue down the path of killing each other over race, creed, and color, over faulty notions of what life should be, and letting these controlling technocrats tell us when to be upset and when to be happy, you see, then they will define humanity for us. Being able to appreciate a cold summer's breeze whenever you know it's been hot all day, they'll never understand that. They'll never understand a kiss goodnight from your mother or from your father. But once they do, and they're able to replicate that, that's whenever we have to worry. And this is where we're at right now in the year 2016. I'm calmly talking to you about these things to illustrate the fact that this is where we're going. So the more that we sit here and try to define ourselves, or at least have other people define what humanity and reality are for us, that's whenever we let these technocrats win. So in closing, I'd like to say this, because doing this series and doing a lot of this work has shown me the importance of not only one person, but the importance of a team. And this is all I really have to say. If you're interested in working with me as a team and understanding more of what's actually going on, or at least trying to help, let me know. Because it's high time that we start working together instead of bickering. And as I'm sure you're all aware of, I've got more than enough work to do. And I could definitely use your guys' help. But that's all I've got. I definitely hope I gave you guys enough stuff to go spur you on to start doing your own research. But that's just me. This is my opinion. All I've really got to say is stay vigilant, guys. And remember, expose lies and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction, or even Independence Faction, whichever one you prefer. Out.